The following program contains language and subject matter that you may consider unsuitable for children. Parental discretion is advised. You got it? Oh, God.
Jesus!
He's two different people. He pretends to be a nice guy, but he's not. He's an asshole. That's what he is. He pretends to be a nice guy, and oh yes, I'm just looking for the fam, happy, and then, but in other place he talk a lot of shit. It is what it is. Just be a man and say what you say.
Hello and welcome to episode 1 of the Say What You Say podcast. I am your host, Marquis Johns. I am joined alongside Kyle Johnson. Kyle, how you doing, man?
Oh, man, I'm doing all right. Just excited to be here.
Absolutely, man. First episode go around, man. And first things first, I'll explain my bio and more importantly, who the hell am I guess. Marquis Johns, current writer for nyfights.com, formerly of Big Fight Weekend. Been seen all over the place, I guess. It doesn't really matter. But if you follow boxing social media, you kind of know who I am. If you're in boxing media, you unfortunately know who I am. Either way, I've been doing it for a couple of years now. But Kyle, you're the last of a dying breed, man. Kyle?
So me personally, yeah, I'm just a fan, man. I'm a fan that likes to talk and I try to stay active on social media with the boxing, Twitter and all that. Just go to fights and just want a little outlet to chat it up and hopefully get people to chime in here and there, but more or less just a big time fan.
Absolutely. That's all we need for the sport is more fans. And you mentioned boxing media and boxing social media. Where is on your pound for pound list? No, never mind. Let me just playing. But let's get down to the business first of all. Today's podcast is brought to you by the fine folks over at ProBox. To sign up for your yearly subscription for $18. Kyle, I bought a pound of chicken wings on Sunday to watch the Avalanche beat the Lightning for the Stanley Cup. That pound of chicken wings was $24. For ProBox, it's only $18, and it gives you about 2 fights a month. Regional cards, nothing crazy, but they are guaranteed championship fights, and they are called with a Hall of Fame crew of Antonio Tarver, Paulie Malignaggi, Roy Jones Jr. Y'all must have forgot Roy Jones Jr. He's there. All for this for $18 a year or $2 a month. And Kyle, I got to admit to you, man, it's a great deal. What do you think about ProBox?
It's a hell of a deal, man. The idea that you can get this for less than a pound of chicken wing, very, very exciting. And I do love that they have these title fights on. Axel Vega fight this past weekend.
Yes.
We had Jonathan Gonzalez retain his WBO light flyweight title there. Angelino Cordova probably pulled that upset off. It's probably an upset, right? You would say against Alex Vega.
Yeah, it's a mild upset, and hit these fights and a lot more. They're having hit these fights and a lot more next ProBox event coming from the ProBox Center at the beautiful ProBox box arena in Plant City, Florida. Too, Kyle, I wanted to mention as well. They listen to people's feedback. They were calling Plant City, Florida, Tampa for the longest on these broadcasts, and I wrote about it over at NY Fights. And anyone listening to the sound of my voice will tell you Plant City is not Tampa. They stopped doing it. Problem solved. You got to get ProBox TV. Welcome back. Going back on the fights this past weekend, Kyle, you were on hand in person and seen frequently on the DAZN broadcast of this fight out in San Antonio. First things first, man, new venue. Talk to me about it. How was it?
Oh, beautiful place. Pretty intimate. About 3,000, 4,000 people inside. Had a little area for risers in the backside. Okay. And then you had all floor seating there, so we were all pretty close, and man, I got to see a pretty good night of action. Raymond Ford looked pretty good. I mean, that was a 1-2 fight for him. All he had to do was throw that jab in that left hand, and there wasn't much coming back his way, as you could see.
Yeah, and to piggyback your point with Raymond Ford, who looked really good this past Saturday, that was one of the few fights that everyone thought that if there was any possibility of an upset over the weekend, it was going to be that opener on DAZN with Raymond Ford. And much like the rest of the fight card, if you were the B-side,
You lose.
my personal favorite was actually before that card started with Raymond Ford. Actually, the prelim action on YouTube had Kevin lose to that kid's name's going to escape me all of a sudden. It was Martinez, and what was funny about it was they read the scores right on the broadcast, and you could see this kid make like this expression, Kyle, of like, what the fuck? Like that was his face on the, that was his face, and he pseudo flicked off the camera on the way out. I thought that was impressive. So shout out to Munroy for that. I mean, he still thought it was a draw, but he lost on points decisions there. But it was real fun fights actually up and down. But going back to your fight card that happened on the Zone Saturday night with leading up to the main event, can we talk about this women's fight for a second? Because everything leading up to it was undisputed championship at welterweight with Jessica McCaskill and Ibarra. And Ibarra has this tremendous story that they laid out on the broadcast, Kyle. I'm sure you may have heard it heard it ringside, where she was pretty much kidnapped and it's a crazy ass story. But then the bell rang.
Yeah, the bell rang, and she was in trouble from the get-go. She got caught with a huge shot in the third round, basically knocked her out on her feet. She kind of fell into McCaskill. For as unrefined as McCaskill looks from time to time, she is a problem at 147 pounds. She just seems to kind of plod through and run through everyone she fights at this weight.
Yeah, so far that's been the case for the most part. This wasn't the prettiest fight on paper or on the eyeballs actually to watch. But the one thing I will admit that was amazing about it was the fact that McCaskill's right. That entire fight wouldn't, and didn't miss. And that was just the one thing that I saw pretty much overhand words, the point where Ibarra, when she quit on the stool, when I had the translator try to explain it on the broadcast, I thought was pretty amusing, where she said she wanted to go home. It's like, I haven't heard. It's refreshing, Kyle, when they book some of these squash matches where the actual B-side just wants to say, hey, where's the check? I'm out. Like, it's so refreshing. Usually you got corners, want to stick it out there and go out on your shield and other words of murder.
Well, we were all talking as the corner kind of, or as she sat in the corner longer and longer at the end of the third round, and that was the end of that. One of my buddies said, I think she's going to quit, and that was essentially what happened.
That was the translation that the broadcast put over, and it was pretty interesting just the way she quit. But I'm glad she got out of the way, because that was nothing but bad things going to happen there. So what's next for McCaskill here is I'm always intrigued about, because they're setting it up for her, Kyle, to be supposedly with Chantel Cameron. It's one of those fights, honestly. If they make that fight, I'm all for it. I think Cameron absolutely wins wide on points, but I'm looking forward to seeing if it happens, because
I think it'll be a fun fight. Yeah,
McCaskill has an equalizer, and that equalizer is this right hand, and she throws it at weird angles because she doesn't throw it like a normal punch. Like the punch she was throwing at Ibarra, granted she was giving up size and inches for it. It looked like the punch that Little Mac threw the bald bull in Punch Out. Like that was the right that she was throwing at that just didn't miss. It was pretty funny. But leading up to the co-main event of this, actually, the one Mujan Akhmadaliev, I'm going to stab that all later on in edit and post-production if I got that wrong.
But it's Akhmadaliev. You win. Perfect.
He did. He looked really, really good, one-armed essentially.
One-handed, yes.
Against Ronnie Rios, getting the stoppage win. And actually, that was what impressed me the most, because I didn't think he had it in him to actually get the stoppage in that fight. I thought I was just going to go just coast to the cards and be on a wide points win, because by about the sixth round of that fight, Ronnie Rios didn't have anything for him outside of resistance and angles.
No, and we kind of noticed MJ had issues with one of his hands probably around the third or fourth round.
Okay.
And kind of noticed, he's only throwing with one hand here, and just to suck it up in the 12th, like that was fantastic to see, and it really got the crowd going, getting ready for Bam there. But it was a hell of a performance by MJ, just totally outclassed and totally outboxed Ronnie Rios. And then to be that aggressive in the 12th to go after him and close the show was very good, and I'm sure the people tuning in were very happy as well. Like I said, the crowd was excited about it, and it leads to hopefully a fight with Stephen Fulton, and I would say I'd have to say Fulton in my mind would beat MJ. I think Fulton is as good as they get right now, but you can never count out MJ and his pedigree either.
Not at all. And I think I'm with you there as well on Fulton. And I want to ask you about this because I want to get your perspective on this because you are the fan on this. And it bears repeating because usually when I go to fights and sit ringside like doing the whole media deal, there is nothing that deflates a crowd, Kyle, more than a lackluster co-main event. I have been to so many piss poor co-main events. To give you a great example, people wonder why Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder 3 was so great. The fight leading up to it, Frank Sanchez and F.A. Ajagba helps.
Yes.
So,
one of my favorites was when who did Andy Lee knock out at Madison Square Garden before Cotto Martinez? It was Julian Jackson's kid, wasn't it?
Yes.
That got the crowd going because everybody was kind of starting to file in. It was Puerto Rican Day Parade weekend.
Yeah.
Jackson's power is simply devastatingly, and there's a perfect right-hand counter off the ropes, and Betsy Esteban stops the fight. What an amazing comeback knockout for Andy Lee.
Just what I told you, Jim. Coming at Andy Lee, not respecting his punching power, not thinking that he's capable of hurting you, and that's what happened. He got too confident at chasing the guy down, who's still very dangerous, and ran right into a perfectly timed right hook.
I'm not going to lie, anybody listening to this, you could maybe stop listening after you hear my next statement. I picked Sergio Martinez to win, so whatever that means. One-legged Sergio Martinez. It was really... I picked with my heart, not my head.
Oh, man. It happens.
Life goes on.
Oh, it happens. It makes you feel any better. I'm still hearing it to this day that Manny Pacquiao's best win was Keith Thurman. I'm not going to sleep tomorrow night for that. But getting back to this, the Bam Rodriguez Sir Rungvisai card, we're at the main event, and let's be honest, Bam Rodriguez looked really, really good, and it's one of those things where it's hard to describe to those who didn't watch it on the Zone because I would be remiss to think that the entire boxing community was racing to watch this Saturday night. But if they didn't miss it, his footwork was something next level, Kyle.
Kind of got caught up in the moment a bunch, just watching him move around from side to side and popping Sorang Visai with the jabs and those left hands, shots that probably would have dropped 112 pounders, but it just seemed like Sorang Visai had nothing for him after about the third round on. Just plodding away, flat-footed. Todd Grisham mentioned something on the broadcast when I watched it back earlier today about how he wanted to get Jesse or Bam into the late rounds, and I don't think it would have mattered because he was just so slow and couldn't really land anything of any consequence outside of a right hand. Maybe I think in the second round he landed a good one, and he landed a few body shots later on in the fight, but they didn't have any sting. They didn't have any sting.
Yeah, that was it. Now, that was the one thing I realized too, where it's like after you mentioned that about the third round is when you realized that Sir Rungvisai pretty much mailed it in, and I'm going to agree with you on that because there was a point in the third round where the first two rounds Sir Rungvisai was pushing Rodriguez back with that right hand you mentioned. Rodriguez in that third pushed him back with a body shot and then danced around him, and then from there it was pretty much academic because you could just see that Rungvisai just was pretty much, as you mentioned, was flat-footed and he was pretty much cement shoes. Actually, I don't know if he was more dial-up king than rat king in this past weekend, but it was just it wasn't his best. It wasn't his best work. But I was also reminded leading up to this fight why he wasn't favored. It was because he didn't look that great this fight back home as well. So
no, but you know what though, I think Jesse's a special fighter. I think Bam's a special kid. He's 22. He's, in his last couple fights shown that he is willing to take on some really big challenges. And the idea that he can still move down one division, and he's got a lot of time left in his career. I think he's going to be huge. It was a good crowd Saturday night, and I think he's going to become San Antonio's best franchise over the next 8 to 10 years if he really wants to.
Yeah, and he looked really good as well. And the one thing with him being the option of him having the capability of moving down in weight. Of course, on social, I saw a post-fight once he won. The usual cast of characters looking for fights, i.e., Sonny Edwards was a big one that popped up. I saw that one was requesting a fight. But I wanted to ask you this instead, Kyle, because I've grown to hate, because everybody in boxing media, social media does this after every fight, where they do this weird rank and file thing where it's like, oh, so-and-so has to face so-and-so next. Who do you, Kyle, actually want to see Bam actually in the ring with?
I think maybe another fight with Quadras, maybe a fight with Chocolatito. Maybe if he wants to go back down to 112, he can fight Ray Martinez, who continuously pulls out of fights. I don't know. That seems like he might be fed a bunch of guys down in those two weight classes from Eddie, and see who Eddie wants to keep around afterwards.
Yeah, I think Bam is becoming Eddie's new equalizer here, and I think if he does move back down to 112, I think you mentioned Martinez. I think Martinez, who's for some reason avoiding McWilliams or Royal for some crazy reason, 4th time by the way, he was not on this card for various reasons, makes me wonder if he's not the next man up. But my thinking is also, because I'm all in for being. Want to wrap up with this on this. A couple of news and notes. The reason why we're starting this podcast on episode 1 so late as opposed to during earlier in the summer was I want to wait on this fight announcement, Kyle. And you know where I'm going with this. We got Jake Paul coming back to save us from our bar boxing summer this year, taking on Tommy Fury in August 6th on Showtime pay-per-view out of the mecca of boxing, Madison Square Garden in New York City. Finally going with round 2 here for Tommy Fury and Jake Paul. This is a test that we wanted from Jake Paul last December. Tommy Fury wanted no part of it then. Supposedly he wants a part of it now. What's your take on these shenanigans?
I mean, it's just, I was looking at tickets for it just because, and they're going for about like $3-4 grand on StubHub down on the floor there. Now, I think once they start doing the promo and stuff, like, I don't really hate Jake Paul for boxing because he gets eyes on the sport. And, I mean, at the end of the day, say what you say, we're all going to probably watch it because we're degenerates. And that's what we do. We watch stupid fights. But, like, everybody loves a good freak show. For my MMA fans, pride never die, baby. But we're getting Amanda Serrano fight. It's going to probably be a squash match. But I don't know. I mean, I'll watch it, but I just don't, like, it doesn't, like, really move the needle for me per se. You know, the funny thing is Jake Paul's fought Nate Robinson, Ben Askren, Tyron Woodley twice, and another content creator. So, I mean, how serious do we actually take this, you know?
That's what makes it me, honestly, Kyle. That's the one thing I thought that was interesting about this, is that in terms of what, because you just ran on his resume, that the one other content creator you're forgetting is the formidable Anderson Gibbon one around. What makes that interesting as well is that this is an actual boxer. Granted, I'm you guys can hear the quotes as I say this. It's Tommy Fury. Not that Fury, but Tommy Fury. But the one thing I'm looking forward to just out of all of this is that if Jake Paul is to quote unquote shut up anyone about him not actually fighting boxers, this would be the guy. My only problem with it is, though, Kyle, and I think what's going to, and you see this coming from his camp, is that he'll fight the boxer this go round. The next fight around, he's probably fighting Frank Gore if he moves down from heavyweight.
Well, right, but Showtime's not stupid, and Steven Espinosa's not in the business of losing money here. So I think they're going to continue. They're going to continue to move him along at the snail's pace that they're moving him along at right now. There's a lot of things that I could say about this that have been already been said, and I'm just going to watch it for what it is—a freak show.
Yeah, because that's kind of what this is, Kyle. I mean, this is the bearded lady. I mean, it is
exactly
what it is. But and it's one of those things with Jake Paul where I don't think he's really out to sway anything outside of that. I honestly, kind of confused only on the fact that if he's to grow the sport, he is hell-bent on being a carbon copy of Floyd, which is very, very irritating. But, I mean, it's the shtick, and it's the shtick that made everyone money, so here we are.
Yeah, it's a little early on in the career to be doing that, I guess, you know?
Yeah. It's that old cliche I've heard from boxing way too long, where it's like, hey, before you can become Money May, you had to be Pretty Boy Floyd first. And it's like, oh, maybe some folks already have the Pretty Boy money already. Maybe they can just, skip that step in the program. Maybe I don't know.
Surely can.
Yeah, and he surely can. And want to end on some sad news. Not sad as anybody passed away, but we have a retirement, Kyle, in Mikey Garcia. Some will joke and say he retired 3 years ago against Errol Spence. Others will say he retired before that. But give me your thoughts on Mikey Garcia pretty much hanging it up. It's kind of funny because he kind of did it in the most nonchalant way possible. Shout out to Abe Gonzalez at NY Fights being nosy on social media. He's found on his Instagram that he put in the bio, retired boxer. So take it for what it's worth. Yep. He can always just edit that on Saturday and become unretired again. But for kicks and giggles, because Officer Mikey probably is retiring here. Just give me your thoughts on Mike Garcia and his career. What do you thought? Okay.
One of my favorite moments, of course, was in one of the Friday night chats. Shout out to the chat, yes, where he was getting interviewed by Mauricio Suleiman.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they were talking about the Cowboys.
Yes. Oh, man.
Boy, that was dumb. But in all seriousness, it's our one of our good acquaintances. His favorite fighter of all time.
Yes.
But Mikey was solid. He was, I mean, for a bunch of years and two years. What do you have? 2 years off with the top rank.
He was dealing with top rank legal shows for 2 years. Like
he was a really good featherweight that beat up Orlando Salido. Beat up Juan Manuel Lopez. Beat up Rocky Martinez. I mean, he had a pretty solid run there, and then he gave Zlatikanen, Broner, Lipinets.
Yeah.
He had a good run. Oddly enough, losing to Sandor Martin's probably not the way you want to go out, but
not the worst, not the best way. It's probably going to join Kevin McBride in terms of retirement fights and of big names here. But
Mikey looked like he checked out. Just going up in weight, and he's fighting at welterweight, and I don't know. It's tough, and it's weird because like he fought the Vargas fight. Like you can make a case honestly. I thought Jesse Vargas looked a little better than what he was given on the scorecards actually. But it's just one of those things where like maybe if had Garcia not stayed at 140, but the money's at 147, I get it. Had he not been with top rank and not have been in court for 2 years, right? But even with that, that 2 year off, like that kind of ruined all of his momentum that he built when HBO was trying to build him up, and that was once that shut everything down, that's pretty much it. It's kind of unfortunate, but that's just the way this business works. But I say that now, he's retired today. He'll probably be back at some point, so we'll see what happens with that. But so let me ask you this though, Marquis.
Yes.
Hall of Famer.
You know what? Had he beat Spence, he would have chased the greatness and got there easily, no question. Now without that fourth belt, I don't know. It's had a good run. I just don't. He's going to be outclipped by too many folks that are going to make the cut. That's just going to be the issue. But he had a great career though. Yeah,
he did. He had a very good career.
Yeah, So fights this weekend. I want to get out on this. We have a Joy Joyce sighting. He's facing Christian Hayner.
Yeah, and I'm actually kind of excited about that because Joe Joyce is just the juggernaut. I mean, what else can you say? He's got a
really
telephone pole jab. He punches incredibly hard. It's not the prettiest in the world, but he will whoop your ass.
You know what's funny? I compare Joy Joyce to a Bowser in Mario Kart. Once he starts, it's over. Like once he gets past that second lap and you haven't stopped him or pushed his momentum off of or whatever have you, forget it. Ask Daniel Dubois.
Yep. He's gotta be moved along a little quicker because he's a little older. but I mean, he beat Dubois' ass.
Yeah, he beat Dubois,
Yep.
and so I'm. You know what? Actually, you've talked me into this because only because there's not that much going on in terms of heavyweight fights of real significance. And truth be told, it's top 10 heavyweight, and that's all I could ask for at this point. I mean, he's in action. Also, since Jake Paul is fighting Tommy Fury, one of the guys who was trying to get a Jake Paul fight, even went as far as to dress as Waluigi to get it. Martin Bradis is in action, and
Boy,
yeah,
that's exciting.
IBF mandatory opponent for him, and Ja Opatia, undefeated, mind you, but definitely the definition of the IBO mandatory opponent, Kyle. And you know what that means to me? He's good for 4 rounds or the opening bell, but definitely one of the two.
Are you going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning Eastern time for this fight?
Those who want to watch on ESPN Plus can on the app at 5 a.m. Eastern. I will catch the replay on your local news media outlets.
Yeah, I'll watch it when I get up in the morning.
Yeah, maybe something crazy happens. Maybe a guy bites a dude in the ring like a while back, like Cash Ali does, and maybe it makes SportsCenter again. Who knows? But other than that, no.
Do you know if the Flamingo guy is fighting on the undercard?
I have not heard about the Flamingo guy. They have not actually announced the undercard yet, actually, on this. Which
shout
is
out
very
to Tim
disappointing.
Boxeo for talking about the Flamingo guy.
Yeah, shout out to Tim Boxeo and fine folks over there. Yeah, that guy needs to be in action too. I'm surprised I'd be shocked if he's not. But shoot, Kyle, before I run, tell everybody your socials so we can run on out of here.
Oh man, you can catch me at KJSA, KAYJAYSA, and Twitter.com. And just come say what's up and give me a follow. I just like talking boxing and other nonsense in this crazy world.
Absolutely, and you can follow me on at Weak Sauce Radio. That's on all the social media platforms, and you can join me on said nonsense as well. Until next time, also read my writings over at NY Fights. Got a few things working on for the week. Slow news week. Maybe something will happen good, and I can write about it. You can catch that at nyfights.com. But until next time,
we will talk to you later. Y'all can catch me at the Meg Sayo Ray Vargas fight next week, and we will talk about that.
We'll talk about that fight, Kyle, and much more. So until next week, thank you for listening, and say what you say.